Happy 4th of July, and this is exactly why we waited to get the appliances into the kitchen here and why we ordered them a little bit later to capitalize on the 4th of July sale. And we've also been watching this stock. It's called Ceragon or Caragon, I think it's Ceragon. CRNT is the ticker symbol, and we've been waiting for the right moment to potentially cover it. I just got a message on Instagram earlier today. Someone said, "Will, what smaller cap stocks are you really watching?" This isn't just a wireless backhaul company. Ceragon is also quietly positioning itself as a major player in the global 5G infrastructure. So the internet you're starting to see on your phone, it's getting faster and faster. The company's got pretty low floats, smart timing potentially here. And now the volume is also waking up. And let me break it down for you guys why this could be the beginning of a major move. And just a friendly reminder, the 4th of July, speaking of sales, 4th of July for Stockmates is closing soon. So if you want lifetime access, not a subscription or anything like that, to our daily live trading and all of our targets inside the community, along with all of the earnings for the upcoming weeks. So targets, earnings, all that good stuff. It's the second link in the description down below. So let's take a look. CRNT, there's three things we look at when analyzing a stock. The first thing is going to be the market. The market here is 5G wireless. We see a lot of internet demand, a lot of new cellular devices, also potentially maybe working off of satellite internet. So that's also another market we're going to be covering, which we do cover inside of Space Tech. But on top of that, we're talking about this company having some real world usage, seeing some partnerships as of recently, and the market they're in is growing very fast. Now, the second thing is the analysis. The analysis of the company is broken down into A, B, and C, which is, from my perspective, I found the best way to get the best analysis and become well informed is to go through the financials, the news, and the chart. So there's a lot of indicators in each one of those, but let's just start with the financials. CRNT is about a 600 or $230 million market cap, so very small. So you do have to urge caution, at least in this volatile environment, because it's such a low market cap. There's risk. Now, here's what we're looking at for the income statements. We see pretty consistent revenues in the just around $100 million per quarter, with the net income mostly remaining positive. If we look annually, we see increased revenues year over year and getting up into just about 400 million in revenue with net income positive on the year in 2024. And it looks like they're on track to potentially see a similar year this year, if not the same. So now we're looking at annuals on the balance sheet. You can see their balance sheet has maintained some discipline. The total assets are outweighing the liabilities, so a lot more assets than liabilities. And we do see their total assets increasing more than that of their liabilities. So that's always good. Now, when it comes to the financials, there's also some things to consider that we could also pull up, which is one thing we oftentimes will take a look at, which would be some of the SEC filings and also taking a look at what companies are holding this. So when we look at the recent institutional ownership on CRNT, you can see that they have Morgan Stanley, they have maybe not BlackRock, but it looks like they got Morgan Stanley in there, UBS, they have Bank of America, not a huge amount, but definitely in the millions of dollars from a lot of those companies. You got Caption Management. JP Morgan Chase is in the conversation along with Jane Street. And it looks like that's going to be mostly it. I'm sure that you could probably find their Citadel, maybe Charles Schwab in there as well, but it might be a little bit more harder to identify. You got BlackRock there, but looks like they just got about 13,000 shares there, and Goldman Sachs there as well. And we did see just a second ago State Street. So overall, you're seeing most institutions. This is interesting though, more decreased positions than increased positions. So maybe not looking totally bullish as of right now when it comes to the institutional holdings. When we've looked at the filings as well, you could we could jump through them, but we're going to keep it kind of overview high level here with the financials. Overall, what you need to know about this company is they're in a growing market with financials that seem to be increasing year over year, which is always good to see. And their market cap is very low, just about 230 million, and they got about 1,000 employees, so most likely looking pretty legit. Let's take a look at the next indicator, which is the news. We could see kind of what they're doing. They got mobile operators, energy, utilities, ready to unlock your network's potential. So they got 1,600 plus private network customers, 1 million plus systems deployed, and 600 plus service provider customers, and in 130 countries. So you can see some of their partnerships as well. If we get into maybe partners here, let's take a look at their technology partners. All right, so you got Blink Wireless. You have some maybe smaller companies that utilize them to offer 5G. Don't see any massive big tech companies there unless we head over to maybe not technology partners, but partners in general, which we don't see too much of. Premier partner, strategic partnership there. Nothing too crazy. So let's get into the news. Now we kind of can see, I mean, from a product standpoint, I've seen some real world usage. They do have these photos and images of different technologies that they output for what seems to be fiber optic related connection points for 5G. 5G is allowing them to essentially provide really, really fast internets. They got channel bandwidth for microwave 224 megahertz and millimeter wave 2000 megahertz frequencies. So they're pretty down in the nitty gritty with the product, which is always kind of good to see. But at the same time, I would like to know more of their partnerships, as some of those companies haven't been super notable. When we take a look at the investor side of things, let's look at their recent press releases and go directly to the source to see what's going on. So it looks like in 2025, they've had a few articles release. They're at some conferences. They recently reported earnings, which in the recent earnings reports came out with positive revenues, but dropped a little bit there on the earnings per share than expected. So not the perfect quarter, definitely a little bit of a drop off there from some rising revenues. When it comes to recent articles, they got a $4 million contract here with an oil and gas producer. They do have a few contracts. I've seen a lot of different conferences that they're going to. Let's see if there's any other notable high income contracts. Let's see. Yeah. Software gains. They're increasing revenue streams potentially here. $10 million quarter booking for energy sector. Highest ever quarterly booking for the quarter, and that was May 2nd. Okay. So they got that pipeline connectivity. They're doing that for natural gas. So really starting to see maybe not huge contracts, but in that $5 to $15 million range, indicates that they are still building their revenue. And that was just kind of into this end of last 2024. And then, yeah, for 2025, not too many huge articles. So as far as revenues go, it's possible that they could, maybe hold their current revenues, if not decrease slightly based on what we saw released, unless they have new articles. So financials look okay. They definitely look a little more favorable just in general, but maybe a slight decline as they did plateau a recent 2 quarters, basically. They kind of plateaued, so we'll see how it looks in the next quarter. So financials look good, and then you take a look here over into the chart, and this is where it also gets interesting. They've had this consolidation from November here, basically 2016, so the past few years, consolidating from left to right. They've had their moments where they've surged and then sold off. They've had their moments where they surged and sold off. And honestly, it seems like they have pretty consistent revenue, so maybe not fully manipulated, but a little bit of an overcompensation or an overcorrection, an overbought moment there. and then also an overbought moment back here in December 2024 into this year. So we saw a pretty big sell down. It is still kind of selling off, kind of trying to push back above that EMA that acts as a resistance when it's bearish. So maybe we're starting to see that recovery. Part of why I wanted to cover it is because of that. It's possible, with the proper earnings that come out, and they do have some increased revenues continue, that we did see this type of move take place. It's about a 70% increase from current prices. And again, fairly large risk. They have been consolidating recently. So you can kind of see this pattern developing on the shorter term that almost puts them at a little bit of an overbought stage. So maybe a little bit higher risk than most other companies we cover. But you do see it kind of up here towards this resistance with this ability to potentially sell back down here into this range, about 10%, in that $2.30 range if it continues this trend. Now, if it's going to keep a bull trend continuing up into that level we kind of mapped out into that $4 range, right now it's at 268. The last resistance that it faced really was right here. So the strongest level is right around here, around $2.50. You could kind of see this level that maybe it's starting to validate it as a support, consolidate out, and that's kind of the new level at which it continues to rally off of. That's when we start to see a reversal kick in, and we'd like to see something play out where it can continue back up into this $4.20 range. Now again, not any massive catalyst from the news perspective or really from the financial perspective, just steady gains, pretty good financials, and seeming that they recently sold off pretty large from that $5.68 price point down to what's $2.60 now, and they're in the growing market, is giving me reason to believe that they would be a company worth keeping a close eye on. So CRNT, we'll keep a close eye on them throughout the next week, and we'll also be watching, as it seems they do have these dips here pretty consistently. If you could kind of take a look back over the last few days, and you look at, let's say, the market open sessions, right here was end of day. You see a sell down. This was, market open right here. We saw a big dip down before a recovery up into these levels. So when that happens, that's a 1% recovery. Then you see, let's see, this is a market open session. Market open session, consolidating out. Maybe not seeing too much distribution recently, just kind of some accumulation and a little bit of kind of consolidation here. But we're looking at it and we're trying to see if it could break out of this $2.75 range and if it could validate that previous resistance at $2.50 to keep the bullish momentum. Now in that case, we'll watch closely, and why I wanted to cover it is because it seems like there's a lot of things related to it. Now, step number 3 outside of the analysis is the margins for profit. Right now, in the near term, it looks like maybe it could have a little bit more risk up here. Yeah, it's a 3% margin continuing up into here, but we do see that risk of the sell down into that $2.50 range. However, if you're going for maybe a longer term trade, there is that potential of that 83% swing that we could be watching closely. And the risk seems to be a lot lower if we're going for a trade like that. So it seems like that potential trade could be good. I do like the overall direction, but I do see a lot of volatility. So if you're going to get into it, and if I'm going to get into it, I'm definitely going to go with a plan, probably somewhere around like a 3% stop loss in a short-term trade if we're doing that, if we don't have any long-term positions. And we'd be looking for like that 10 to really like a 20% margin for profit minimum. So really look for that 10 to 20% margin, and then kind of managing risk somewhere around that 2 to 3% would be the most ideal for trading CRNT. But I do like the upside potential. It's had some volatility in the past, so you got to watch out for sure, as it has had its sell down days. So we'll see if this consolidation continues, and I'll keep you guys updated on it over the next few weeks. Thanks so much for tuning in. If I earned the like button, go ahead and smash that like button. Do consider subscribing. And again, if you want to join us in our market live session, it's the second link down below. Thanks so much for watching again, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.